After last week's episode of Apothecary Diaries, I've seen a lot of people saying that Jinxie is not doing enough to find Mao Mao, or he doesn't care enough that she's missing. And it's just not that simple in my mind. Starting with the basics, Mao Mao on paper and for all intents and purposes is a servant girl. Despite being connected to the Lao clan, she's still just a servant. While Jinxie, on the other hand, is a high-ranking eunuch, but also the crown prince behind closed doors. So there's a massive class divide between them, and in the Imperial Palace, that does matter. Even if he wanted to drop everything and go full search mode for Mao Mao, he just can't, because that would mean abandoning all of his duties as Jinxie, which he simply can't do without a reason. If he does this, it could draw unwanted attention to Mao Mao, and like he said, this is a punishable offense. Leaving the rear palace without permission is a crime. So at this point, when he has no idea where she is or why she's left, or if she's left willingly or unwillingly, charging off to save her isn't just a bad move, but it could be a potentially dangerous one for Mao Mao. Something else that's really important to me is that Jinxie just does not think the way that Mao Mao does. So even though he knows the outcomes of all of these investigations that we've seen in the show so far, he's not piecing them together quite the way that Mao Mao is. And also, we are the audience, so we know a lot more of the puzzle pieces than Jinxie does, right? Because we know who Mao Mao is with, how it all happened, and what's going on for the most part. Of course, there are pieces that we don't quite know, but Mao Mao has more information than Jinxie, and Jinxie is just playing catch up, trying to figure out where she's at. And with the information he has now, there's really just no way for him to know. This is where concubine Lolan, aka Shisui, comes into the story as one of just 4 high-ranking concubines in the rear palace, and as someone who was brought into the rear palace through a political arrangement with the Shi clan, and specifically Shisho, her father. Her being missing is a huge deal, as well as Shisho being missing is a huge deal. Now that Jinxie has figured out this information, he has cause to actively investigate. He's not just investigating the disappearance of a servant girl, he's actively investigating a palace scandal that has severe political implications. So now it gives him the ability to step in without exposing his feelings or risking Mao Mao's safety. So it's not that Jinxie doesn't care or isn't doing enough, it's that in his position, he just simply cannot afford to act on emotion. But now that he has reason to investigate and reason to divert more energy, effort, and resources into this investigation, he will. And at least thanks to Mao Mao and her note, he was at least able to piece together the Shisui part of the puzzle, and that full-blown crash out is evidence to me that he really does care.